Welcome back to Off the Air. It's been a big week, our debut week. We've been blessed to have some really good guests throughout the week. And when it comes to local basketball players that have done big things or are continuing to do big things, Chase and Randall was earlier in the week, and this guy's right there in the same breath when it comes to my opinion. It's the one and only Brock Harding joining me, the former Maroon state champion. And Brock, I got to talk to you about the state championship stuff in a second, because I compared and contrast you and Chasen, and I'll get your opinion in a second, but I want you to be thinking about that because Chasen claims something that I think you're probably going to disagree with. But before we get to that, first and foremost, thank you for coming on the debut week of this stupid little show that I started.
For sure. I mean, I'm excited to be here. I think it's a great idea. Just glad to be a part of the debut week and be able to tune in for the many years to come.
I hope so. So, you guys always leave us hanging a little bit, always keep us in suspense. Take us back to, I think, Tuesday night. I'm getting my days all confused. Tuesday night. You guys are down 15 in the second half to a good Nebraska team. Come back and win. How important was it to right the ship and get that one on Tuesday night?
I think coming off pretty I'd say all the guys kind of felt embarrassed about our loss at Wisconsin. Just didn't play the kind of basketball that we wanted to play. We knew that, kind of dealt with that night. Had a good 2 days of prep, came out, thought we played really well at the start of the game. Then they went on a little bit of a run. We dealt with that a little bit, ended up closing the half out, down 3, talked how we needed to come out. Our defense was good. I mean, held them to 34 points and a half. I mean, and we had not been great at keeping teams under their average. We did really good in the first half. They came out in the second half. I think they scored 18 points within the first 5 minutes of the half. So we kind of sat down at that first media timeout, just said, hey, like, they just scored this many points in 5 minutes. We got 15 minutes to kind of come back and do our own thing. We just need to relax. We don't need hero shots. We don't need any of this. And then everybody kind of got going. Peyton Sanford did what Peyton Sanford does, hit some big shots, and just kind of was insane from the three-point line and just ended up closing out with a big win.
Is it fun to watch a guy start cooking like that? I mean, I think it was 28 points in the last 15 minutes in overtime. So 28 points in 19 minutes. And as a point guard, you realize you want to feed that guy, don't you?
For sure. I mean, once he hit the first one, I just didn't hit anything on the rim. I was like, yeah, this guy's hot. I've seen it plenty of times in the 2 years I've been here. Knew just find him, get him the ball, get Josh the ball. We'd be pretty good going down the stretch. So,
talk about him, because there's been shooting struggles early in the season with him, and he's had him in his career, and he usually busts right out of him. But if you look at Fran McCaffrey and senior leaders, I kind of talked to Jess Settles about it on Wednesday here on the show. You go to the line of Matt Gatons and Aaron Whites and Luka Garzas and all those guys as seniors, the Murray brothers, they step up. In order for this team to get to where they want to be, I know there's a lot of talented parts there, but that Peyton Stanford, the guy we saw in the second half on Tuesday night, that guy is going to help out a lot if he gets hot down the stretch, doesn't it?
For sure. I mean, everybody knows what he's capable of, coaches, players, everybody knows what he can do, what he does. I think mainly it was all really him to start the year. I mean, put a lot of pressure on himself, knowing that he's the guy now. He's one of our senior leaders, kind of has to keep everything in control. We just have been telling him all week and all season, like, hey, relax. Like, we know what you can do. You're going to miss – like, you're a shooter. You're going to miss shots. You're going to make shots. You're going to have that game where you make 10, and then it's just going to be over with from there. So it was just awesome to see, especially coming out in the first half. Did he have 0 or 2 points maybe in the first half?
None.
And then
everything in the second half, yeah.
None in the first half. I mean, it's pretty easy to be like, okay, this isn't my game again. Just get in his head, gathered himself, kind of just came out firing in the second half. And, I mean, couldn't be happier for him just to get going, and couldn't be happier for our team to have him going. And we saw comments after the game saying how they knew that we didn't want to play defense. We all kind of showed each other that, kind of showed like, hey, this is what teams think of us. Like, this cannot be what we're known for. This is not what we –
the Big Ten in assists per game, and that you were per game, and that you were third in three-point shooting. I don't want to factor in the other night, but
yeah, not anymore.
Can you grade yourself after halfway through your sophomore season? I know you're probably going to divert or come up with a politically correct answer, but how do you feel you're doing halfway through your sophomore season?
I think it's been a up and down year for me so far. I think I had a lot of high expectations for myself. A lot of my teammates had high expectations for me. I think I've done a great job of just kind of trying to take that leadership step and kind of using my losing my freshman year and kind of building off that, coming into a starting role this year. Just kind of learning who I got around me, what guys I got around me, what I need to do on a nightly basis. I'd say the biggest thing I've been trying to lock in on, if you don't count the other night, is turning the ball over. You can't do that in the Big Ten. Had a couple too many the other night, but if I don't factor in the other night, I think I've done a pretty good job of kind of picking my spots, when to go, when not to go, just taking open shots, getting guys open shots, figuring out who's hot. I'd say just up and down so far all year, just kind of learning what it is to fully play in the Big Ten, play a lot of minutes, meaningful minutes, and just kind of withstand all the runs, all the ups and downs, and just kind of rely on your guys and the coaches to keep you level-headed and stay throughout the whole year.
Consider it like a round of golf with the Hardings. It's a mulligan. Use that game as a mulligan. Forget about those turnovers and move on from there. Indiana coming up. And they just won tonight, and they're one of those teams, I think, before the season, people expected, maybe top 3-4 finish in the Big Ten, struggle a little bit early on. They seem to be finding themselves a little bit. How important every game is important in the Big Ten, I get that, but to start stringing some victories together, defending home court, this weekend's important, isn't it?
For sure. Now we're 2-2 in the Big Ten. To be able to go 3-2 into this California trip we have coming up next week, I think it'd be huge. And to beat a team like that at home, it should be a pretty good crowd. It seems like a lot of people are excited for the game. To take that win, they're 4-1 in conference now, I think. So to be able to beat them, go 3-2, I think that's just be a big step for this team, building confidence and just keep momentum going in the West Coast trip.
I talked to you on Media Day, and we talked about that new jump shot, working with Matt Gatens and Jordan Delps of the world and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not a professional, I'm not an expert, but it looks better. The results look good, I guess I should say. Yep. How has it felt for you? And I know you wanted to shoot it better this year. You have. Where is that jump shot at right now and confidence-wise when it comes to you?
If you take out hitting the side of the backboard on a corner three yesterday, it's feeling pretty good. Whenever I get it, my teammates have confidence in me making shots. I have confidence that they're going in, so I'm going to keep shooting them. And just seeing those numbers jump from my freshman year to now just kind of makes me trust my work even that much more, just trust what Coach Gatens has worked with me on, and just kind of going back to those mechanics and just trusting what I've done and trusting everybody else's faith in me to make shots.
I want to circle back around to defense real fast because you mentioned the narrative, I guess, is that Iowa doesn't like to play defense. Can you talk a little bit more on that? And before Wisconsin, if you take that Wisconsin game out, I thought you guys had been playing better defense this year. It was better the other night against Nebraska. How important is that? Can you dispel this myth that Fran doesn't care about defense or you guys don't care about defense?
Whatever you see on the court from us on a nightly basis, it has nothing to do with what coach is teaching us in practice, because he's on us from the moment we start practice to the moment we're in film, to the moment we're in film the next day. This can't happen on defense. We can't close out short. We can't do that. We can't do this. And then the Wisconsin game comes, we close out short, we give up threes, stuff that we don't work on, stuff that we don't want to be known for. We just kind of let it slip as a team. And I think that's going to help us take the next step as a team. It would have been great if it didn't happen, but it did happen. We can't control that it happened now. So building off that, being able to hold each other accountable, just say, hey, we're not doing this anymore. We saw what happened when we did do this. This is what we need to do to win. This is what we need to do to be better on defense. And I think it'll help us in the long run going throughout the season.
Brock, is there a more underrated player right now in the Big Ten than Josh Dix? If you look at his numbers, and Nicholas Baer tweeted it the other night, his numbers, I know it's a small sample size in Big Ten play, but he's playing at an all Big Ten level, all Big Ten first team level. A guy like that can get those numbers and almost doesn't need the volume to get it with the efficiency he has. How slept on is Josh Dix maybe in the rest of the Big Ten?
It's insane. I'd love to see what other team scouting reports are of him, just the way that he plays the game, the way that you can't give him any space, three-point line, mid-range. A true three-level scorer, finishes at the rim, can rise up on people. Just the way that he's played so far throughout this season. We saw it towards the end of the year last year, just that confidence start to build and build. Then over the summer, it became even more confident player. And then we got into this season, and it's just been a straight killer and a silent killer, which makes it that much more fun to watch.
One thing I've enjoyed this year is seeing you and Owen on the floor more together. I think that didn't happen as much freshman year. It's happened this year, but I want you to take us off the floor because I got to know you guys pretty well your senior year. Are you still dominating him and everything? Are you still schooling him in video games? Has he given up, I should say, or where's the competitiveness maybe off the floor with you guys?
If you ask him, he's not allowed to play video games with me anymore. He's not good enough for the level that I expect on the game, so he's not allowed to play with me anymore. He can attest to that. He's been working to try to get better, but he's not to that level where he can compete with me yet, so we don't do those anymore. Other than that, same goofy relationship we've always had. Annoy him, he annoys me, and that makes us better on the court together.
It is interesting. You guys are like brothers, and watching and observing. And I don't know why you let me and my photographer do it, but we actually observed you off the floor, and you are like you're like an annoying little brother, and he's like
I'm the big brother.
Big brother.
I'm the big brother.
Yeah. You're almost like a bad WWE tag team. Like you're the small feisty guy. He's the big, I don't want to say dumb guy. I gotta be careful here, but
yes, yeah.
You're gonna say that for me, but talk about your relationship. And I think people have known it and it's been documented, but it is really unique and fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, just going back to when we got to know each other, it's just always kind of been that big man point guard relationship. We just kind of got along off the court right away, and that's made our on the court bond that much stronger. We just kind of trust each other to trust each other on the court, and it just starts from being off the court, hanging around each other, just kind of doing things together, joking around with each other, fighting each other, just stuff that brothers do. I mean, that's what makes us so good on the court together.
Fighting each other. You're not physically getting into. He's 6'10", dude. And you hold your own.
I don't know how it goes, but not the size of the lion, but the heart and the lion is all that matters.
All right. I like that. So I mentioned Chase and Randall was on earlier this week, and I know you're younger and you were younger when he was winning a state championship. But when I go through my almost 25 years of covering local sports, and I did that as I got done at WQAD in November, I started thinking of teams I enjoyed the most, and their team was there. And then that 2023 team that won a state championship are right there near the top for me. So I asked him, like, in your primes, who's winning, and he even gave me why. He gave me a detailed reason of a scouting report why. So I'll throw it to you to give you a rebuttal. 2023 Moline Maroons, 2011 Rock Island Rocks, both in your primes, both senior year. Who wins and why?
So can I get their starting lineup? Because I would have been, I think.
Why are you doing this to me?
7. I was 7 years old. So
Denzel McCulley.
Yep.
There was
okay.
a Muscovali. God, why are you doing this to me? Because I shouldn't be able to name it off.
He had this detailed scouting report, who was guarding Owen for them?
He said that they just had more grit. Denzel was 6'8" ish. Don't make me fight. Don't bring me into this. You gotta give me your opinion. So, it's like asking me which kid I like more, which is Chase, if you're wondering at home. But you can't ask that. So you tell me why.
I've had this argument with my brother and his Moline teams too, because he tries to throw himself into these conversations, which their team's not. But
really, how many state championships does he have?
He's got a Big Ten championship, and I know that it would be his only point that he brings up. So I'll just throw that out there before he can put that out there. But 0. So Jasper Ogburn on Chason, I've seen him guard Cam Christie, who plays for the Clippers G League Clippers team. I've seen him guard Jalen Griffith from Simeon. I've seen him guard all the best players, and nobody has liked going against Jasper Ogburn because he's going to untuck you. He's going to tap you on the butt, tell you good play after you make a turnover, just something that you don't want to deal with. And I know Chason's a pretty even keel guy, a pretty level-headed guy, but, I mean, that gets pretty annoying if you ask me when you deal with it in practice every day. So I got Jasper on Chason. I mean, and there's no way Denzel McCauley is guarding Owen. And you take Chase on out, we throw the ball no, and it's going to be a pretty easy night.
All right. Well, that's well said. So I'm assuming Moline is your answer.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still following the Maroons? I know that
I am.
Owen's little brother's there. A lot of guys you play with, Trey Taylor's still there. You're not old yet. It's only been a couple years. So do you keep track as much as you can? And your thoughts? Have you seen them play this year?
Yeah, I went to I want to say it was the night before Thanksgiving, that Wednesday. They played, I don't remember who they played. It wasn't a great game. And then I watch most of them online when I can, Friday nights, because you can't beat Friday night Western Big Six basketball. Tune into a couple of games. I enjoy watching their team. Braden, Trey, they've had a great start to their senior year, figuring things out down the stretch. I know Coach Taylor gets things figured out when it starts to matter, and that's when you get to the second half of the season. Brady Welch has been playing great. Arthur's been handling the ball, pressuring people. It's been fun to watch so far. Just the different dynamic that they have now, being able to kind of run around, pressure people. Got Trey and Braden down low, making plays on the perimeter too. It's just Brady shooting threes. It's been fun to watch for sure.
All right, before I let you go, I know that the Rocky Moline games were huge for you. I can remember some where I thought they were going to chase you out of the Rock Garden. You know Rock Island beat Moline already this year, right?
I watched the game.
All right.
I had talks with the players. That doesn't happen. We got rid of that after my sophomore year of high school and thought it was done with. But guess we're just gonna have to get them second time around the conference when they come back to the old brick house. So
that's the beauty part, is there's always that back. I remember. I think it was your senior. Was it your senior year?
Senior year wasn't close either game.
But the one at Rock Island where
junior year,
second. You were
second
slashing and everything.
Yeah,
oh, man, you were so.
Well, I hadn't beat them my entire career, and so there was a lot of built up emotion from that game.
And weird. You let it show a little bit. That's weird, right?
Oh, I never do that. I'm pretty even keeled too.
I appreciate you. Tell Owen I'm gonna bug him soon. We're gonna get him on this show as well. But thank you for doing this. I know you're super busy. You were feeding the homeless this afternoon. And you got games and best of luck at Indiana. We'll catch up real soon. And I appreciate you doing this. Be healthy, be safe, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right. He is Brock Harding from the Iowa Hawkeyes, former Moline State Championship winner. We'll have much more right here on Off the Air right after this.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, joined by Greg Armstrong. And Greg, it's been a stressful bit.
An adventure.
I'm making sure that you're mic'd before my internet. I have good internet. I do. Like, we pay the bill.
Mitch Stormer does not believe that.
No, I know that, but it's been flawless. It was funny on Tuesday, right before we started, Caker was up here and he was and the internet stopped.
Yeah.
And I didn't know why. And it luckily popped back on again. We were good. And later that night, I talked to my wife and I said, hey, for some reason, the internet, she's like, yeah, I got a text message saying they were going to be working in our area from 10 to noon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm shocked that show went on. And my wife's in the air somewhere flying to Phoenix. And I guarantee you she's going to text me with like, hey, so somewhere MediaCom's working. Stop working in my area. We're doing a show. So we're back up. We're back rolling. Hopefully when we put this to YouTube later, it's just one big happy segment of fun. But until then, we are good. If I see that turn orange, you might see me throw something, Greg, which would not be the first time Greg's seen me throwing something.
Absolutely.
But so I want to thank Brock for joining us and his patience. That was pre-recorded. He didn't go through the ups and downs and do the exact same thing over and over if you're watching. But he brought up a great, interesting, because we've had Chase. So if you go through and you have your teams, so we'll just focus on basketball.
Yep.
But my two favorite teams, and I know there's some Iowa side schools that get cranky with me, but 2011 and 2023, those two state champions, it means it hits different in Illinois.
Yeah.
It's just a different beast. It's harder to do.
Yep.
It doesn't happen very often.
Exactly.
Those are my two favorites. So Chasen obviously is going to say that the 2011 team is the best.
Yes.
Brock, of course, is going to say 20. It sucks that he was 7 when that happened. That made me feel really old.
When he said that, yeah. Okay.
So first, I guess I'll throw it to you. Which team would win?
Oh, that's really tough.
It's like picking your favorite kid, Casey. Right?
But he's the only one that would have a shot at watching this.
Yes,
so yeah, that's
so
a
that's
good call.
why.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not watching this as a family later on tonight?
Well, maybe we might,
No, you won't. No,
okay.
You won't.
So, I was working here. I was living in the area for both, but I was not working in media for the 2023 Moline team.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I wasn't covering basketball actively day in and day out.
That. Yeah,
I saw a lot of highlights though, and that team and the dynamic between Harding and Freeman, who still have that connection at Iowa, like that was such a fun, it's a fun connection to watch, right? And so like that team, this is really hard. You're gonna
I think the Hardings are going to watch this.
Okay.
I think Scott and Shannon are going to watch this.
Yes.
I think eventually Coach Sigel will.
Okay.
I think Willie probably is.
Yeah.
Brock maybe. So I'm like, but if I have to take personal bias aside, and like, both teams are awesome. I don't know how you guard Owen Freeman.
Yeah.
And he made a good point. And Denzel McCauley was really good. So give me the starting lineup, because that bugged me and it made me mad that Brock put me on the spot.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you said him to me, I was like,
You were pretty close. You had Royce Muscavally.
Yep.
You had obviously Chase and Randall.
Yep.
Denzel McCauley.
Yep.
Devin Jones.
Yep.
And the fifth starter was Keith Kesey.
So I was gonna say Devin Jones when I did the interview, and I wasn't quite sure.
Yep.
And then
so you had
Keith Kesey.
You had Royce Muscavally was 5'11". You had Deshaun Banks, who was 5'10". He was a senior that year. I don't know how much he played. Let's see if I can find.
Look at you.
No, he didn't play very.
Look at the internet working good right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Finally.
So he was 5'10", but it didn't look like he contributed a whole lot. So you had though, Denzel McCauley was 6'8", right?
Yeah.
So
yep.
Yeah.
But I watched Owen in that state tournament. He was the difference maker. So you know what I would have loved, and Brock brings up Jasper Ogburn locking down Chasen. I love Jasper Ogburn. Nobody locked down Chasen Randall.
No, he was so.
And I was kind of upset with Brock kind of just passing Chasen along to somebody else to guard.
Yeah, that'd be a fun matchup.
Why doesn't Brock want? Remember the lion, heart of the lion, whatever nonsense he was saying?
Yeah, I want that. I want to see that matchup.
Yeah. So maybe we'll put it in the some type of social media later on today. We'll put a poll up. Which team would win in their heyday? Because those guys back in in 2011 are not in their heyday anymore. So, but
probably.
back in their heyday, who would win? Two fantastic basketball teams.
So I don't know why I brought up the two guys that were 5 foot, and then the rest of the team was 6 foot or above. So I'm not.
What was Royce? Royce was probably 6 foot.
He was 5'11". That's why I brought him up as 5'11".
Royce and Brock are. I mean, that would have been a good matchup.
Yep.
And then it would have been Ogburn and Chasen, because Ogburn was their defensive stopper. It would have been McCauley versus Freeman, and then Kesey and Jones.
And Kesey was 6'4".
So he was probably going to guard Trey Taylor, and then Devin Jones would have guarded, and both kind of shooters. Grant Welch.
Yeah,
I love me the Welches. So. Man, that's fun.
That is fun.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yes, it is. So once again, thank you for joining us off the air with Matt Randazzo. We've had internet issues today, but if you're watching this later, we had no issues.
That's right.
Smooth show as always. And I kind of want to call every engineer I ever yelled at and apologize to them.
Did you yell at them?
No, and maybe spoke loudly too.
Okay. Yeah.
So most of them didn't. No, you know what? They all liked me.
Let's
move on. So it is college football's semifinals tonight. I want to kind of start with that, because as I was trying to figure out the internet, in which I could figure out nothing because it's not me.
Okay. Well, quickly before we get to that, it's been a trying morning for you. But would this gift make you feel better?
I do like presents.
Would this make you feel better?
Yes.
You already know where this is going.
Well, you should have gotten these. These are the best things ever invented.
Okay.
And they're not invented; they're just made. But
if I have had one, it's been a long time ago. I'll be honest. I knew as soon as I said that. So
the thing is,
yes.
I went down during this whole thing. I'm like, Greg, I'm gonna go downstairs and get some chips and stuff, get some snacks, because I need to stress eat. And you should, if I would have known.
But I wanted to save it for the reaction on the show here.
If anybody knows and follows me on social media, every November these come out, and usually they're gone by December. They did a much better job this year. They were relevant and they're throughout.
The Hy-Vees I was at, they were pumped. You saw the big display right out front.
Get yourself a little bit.
All right.
So I know they have these all the time, but I don't know what it is. But when it's in the shape of a Christmas tree,
yep.
And it's got, I don't know what it is. They're apps. Greg, there's 5 of them in here. And when I used to work at WQAD, I would take a lot of time off in December.
Yes.
And my kids would go to school, and I like to wrap Christmas gifts. I know it's a weird thing, but I don't mind doing anything as long as I can sit in front of a TV and do it.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, I'll fold laundry all day. I don't mind any of that kind of stuff. As long as I can sit and watch. So I would watch a Christmas movie or old episodes of Seinfeld, which kind of makes me want to do that this afternoon. And now that I got a box, but I would eat a whole box. I would eat a whole box.
I was shocked there's only 5 in there. That's a little disappointing.
Well, that makes me feel a little better. But don't worry about it. Yeah, I want to get a scouting report. I'll keep talking.
Do we like cheers?
Yeah, hold on. This is not normal. This is not what 2 normal men do. But all right. All right. They're delightful.
Oh, very good.
See? Mm-hmm. Well, that's. I can't eat the bobblehead.
That's true. It would not taste good.
If I put that in no, it would not. No, I'm not going to say anything. There's so many different ways to go with that. And I'm on YouTube. But I still don't want to.
Let's divert that this bobblehead is when Pat Angerer had hair.
It is. And his mouth, his teeth are really big.
Yeah, his teeth are really big.
And look at him compared to it looks like Dan Campbell could eat him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which he should. So anyways, enough with the decor. Thanks for that, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. College football playoffs begin tonight. First, before we get into those, have you enjoyed the new system?
I do. I think it's you have games to look forward to, right? Mm-hmm. There's throughout the last couple weeks, it's there's another matchup coming that you're intrigued by. I will say I think 12 teams is the right number. I think they need to figure out better seeding. I don't think they were seeded quite.
I would say
right.
that. I don't know if I like the automatic first round buys for the conference champions.
Because let's be honest, Arizona State was not at the same they played a great game against Texas and they almost pulled it off.
None of them are still there.
Exactly. But Arizona State, I don't think
Texas had a first round buy.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they were the SEC champion. Mm-hmm. So, or did Georgia get it? No, Georgia was the first round buy.
Yeah, I think they're all gone.
Yes, they are all gone. So I don't love that. Mm-hmm. But I love the fact that you can say, hey, here's quarterfinal. And here's the thing is, remember the old days? Well, heck, I can think of the old days when it was at the end of the year, the rankings came out, and whether you were 1 or 2 is what it was.
Absolutely.
But even when it was they did the pick the two teams, and that was a national championship.
The BCS
it
system,
it wouldn't have been this. Probably Oregon versus Georgia. It's probably what it would have been.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
and they're not even around anymore for the semifinals. So that's what I love about it. It's being determined on the field.
Absolutely.
But with that being said, and I get there's complaints over should Bama be in there instead of Boise State, which no, because Bama lost to Michigan. But
yeah,
I'd rather argue about that and forget about that argument when it comes down to a national champion.
Yeah.
We won't remember that argument when somebody's being crowned a national champion. Yeah. I'd rather argue about 12 and 13
absolutely
than 1 and 2.
Yeah. But my argument with the whole Alabama thing, I get it. Their resume indicates that they played a very strong schedule. Every year the SEC is going to say that, and they're usually correct in that. And the Big Ten has proven to be pretty strong. The Michigan getting the win over Bama, and now bowl games, we talked about it earlier in the show, they're not maybe full strength rosters all the time, but in either case, they still won the game head to head. But if you start talking about, well, Boise State shouldn't be in or SMU shouldn't be in because Bama had a stronger schedule, even if they lost 3 games, well, then what's the point for these schools to even compete?
Yeah.
If you're really saying in theory they have to go undefeated to maybe even get considered, it's it's already hard enough for these teams to get their shot. You have to give them the shot.
And it's not always going to go this way. There's going to be that Cinderella story. Look at in the NCAA tournament for basketball.
Yeah.
There's those Cinderella stories that eventually one of these years a Boise State's going to make it to the semi. Boise State, not Boise State, but Boise State's going to make it to the semifinals or maybe the national championship game.
Well, and that's why I'm trying not to I don't think we should overreact and freak out about every result that happens this year. Give it 5 years. Let it play out and see some different things that happen, and then you can maybe determine how to make changes if there's changes needed.
If it's like the first week of a podcast, sometimes the internet goes out.
That's right.
Not everything's going to be perfect.
That's right.
But eventually, are you going to eat that?
I am.
It would have been awkward if I would have gone. Just taking a bite. We got Jim Mattson coming up later in the show. He's going to talk a little Illinois basketball, and the stream still says we're going, and the internet is still going, so I'm excited about that. Tonight, we'll get specific into matchups. Big Ten versus Notre Dame, and that's always been intriguing to me because I think I was back in the day that guy that would have loved to see Notre Dame come into the Big Ten. They're in the ACC for basketball and stuff, but football, they're still that independent. A ton of Notre Dame fans in the Quad Cities. I'm a Catholic guy, so I don't dislike Notre Dame. They go up against Penn State. It seems like it feels like I'm going to get set to watch a game that I would have sat down in the 80s in my parents' house and watched a classic bowl game. I don't even know how often they played.
Did they play a Sugar Bowl in the 80s?
They're just too traditionally that white helmet of and then the Golden Dome and all that kind of stuff. So your thoughts on the game moving in as we get ready to kick this thing off later on?
Mitch is a big Notre Dame guy. He was my co-host on View from the West. He was
good friend of mine.
He was
love me some Mitch.
I'm a
Mitch guy now.
That's great. We should get T-shirts. I'm a Mitch guy.
There you go. I'm a Mitch guy. I'm a Greg guy.
Yep. There are definitely coaches who are one or the other, depending on what we've said over the years. So
I know one who's not a Greg guy.
Okay, well, so Mitch texted and said, the internet was out because it was the universe telling us that we shouldn't go on and predict Penn State to win over Notre Dame. I actually, Mitch, was leaning towards Notre Dame.
And tell me why.
I think that their performance against Georgia, now Georgia wasn't fully healthy. They were down, second string quarterback, the situation being what it was. They just looked really strong in that game. And I think they're playing great football at the right time. And when you look at Penn State's schedule, when they've gone up against Ohio State, Oregon, and what was their other loss? I'm blanking now.
For Penn State?
Yeah.
I think that's just the two.
Okay. So when you look at those, when they went up against what we think was the top tier teams, they came up short. I think Notre Dame getting this win over Georgia when they did, I think they're battle tested in this tournament run, whereas Penn State has played SMU and Boise State.
Yep.
So two good teams, but maybe not at the caliber, competitive wise of the other ones.
I would agree with that. I'm going to root for Notre Dame tonight.
Okay.
I want to see them win, but if I'm investing, which I am, so the line is 1.5 for Penn State, anywhere you look, I think. I can look.
There you go.
But with that being said, like it's going to be a close game. I would tease it a little bit and go Penn State plus 7.5. So that gives you can lose by a touchdown and you're still good. Mm-hmm. The over-under is like at 44. I'd tease that up to like 49.5. Always got to think in sevens. 49 is that number, so 49.5. Okay. So I would go under 49.5, and I would take the plus 7.5. And that's what I would tease. What I love about the game is the unders. I would take a first quarter under.
Yeah.
So the first quarter under is 7.5. Both teams, good defense, not explosive offenses. Yep. Both like to run the football. The clock continues to go. The clock continues to run. And there's nerves. I mean, you're playing in the. So I feel like it's going to be a slow start offensively for two teams that aren't explosive offensively, that rely on some defense and all those kind of things. So 7.5 first quarter under, maybe even 21.5 first half under, and then maybe that little teaser. So if you guys want to lose some of your money, don't get mad at me, but I love the first quarter under in this game as well.
Thanks,
so tomorrow's game is Texas and Ohio State. And it's funny because, and we talked earlier in the week about this, the sky was falling for Ohio State. They lost to Michigan, fire Ryan Day. They're the most talented team left.
I think so, yeah.
I think they win tomorrow night, but I think they might win the whole thing. And that's a 9 seed, an 8 seed.
Yeah.
But when you looked at Vegas when things started, they were like the second most favored team to win behind Texas when everything came out. What do you think tomorrow night? What do you see tomorrow night?
I agree with you. I think Ohio State's the most talented roster, and I think that they are playing really good football right now as well. I think they win that game over Texas, and I think they have a good shot to win the whole thing. And I said crazy to you earlier, like right now, because this whole story of like Ryan Day should be fired to he might win a national championship. Yeah. So what if you're an Ohio State fan who 2 weeks ago was blasting the whole program and their head coach because he can't coach and he can't win the the game against Michigan, and then you win a national championship, like how do you like live with those two thoughts? I don't even know. Like,
and you look at this too. You've got a guy that the system makes it work now. Like you can lose a game like that at the end of the year.
Yes.
And still not they didn't play in the Big Ten championship game.
No.
They weren't even in the Big Ten championship game, but they're probably the best team.
Yeah.
Like talent wise, that's what $20 million will do for you. Like it helps when you have those type. So you're probably going to get it gives the most talented team a chance to win, even if they won bad Saturday in November against a rival and all those kind of things. But weird they lost to Michigan at home the way they did, and they could win the national championship. So I like Ohio State too. I'm rooting for. I'll pick Notre Dame tonight. Yeah. I still like them with the point. I like Penn State if you give me 7.5 points, but close game Notre Dame, close game Ohio State. Who do you got winning the national championship? Mitch is probably watching this, or eventually will.
I will. My heart and my friendship with Mitch, I would say, man, I'd love to see my buddy Mitch celebrate a national championship. I think Ohio State's going to win a national championship.
I would go Ohio State when it comes to just sheer talent, but I think it'd be a good football game. We should point out too, rooting against. I was kind of rooting against it because I didn't think that I was hoping to get him out here.
Yeah.
And then when that didn't happen, I was like, okay, that's okay. Let's let Notre Dame win the whole thing. So best of luck to Charles Jugusah. Hopefully he does big things as well. We are going to take a quick break.
Yep.
Coming up, Jim Mattson from WEEK down in Peoria, a legend when it comes to Illinois high school sports and Illinois football and basketball. We'll talk with him about the Illini and much, much more. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Eat your treat, and we will be right back.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air. As we mentioned at the start of the show, it was a big night last night for the Fighting Illini. They knocked off Penn State by 41 points or something like that. And when I think Illinois athletics, I think of my good friend Jim Mattson. And if you're in the Quad Cities, there's like a Mount Rushmore of sportscasters with Tom Cornelis, Don Sharp, Dan Burrich, Dan Pearson, all those guys. When you look around the state, in Peoria, he's the guy. In the state, you're the guy too. Jim Mattson, thank you so much for joining us, sports director at WEK. How many years, you only look like you're 30, how many years have been covering local sports, covering the Illini, covering stuff down in Peoria?
Well, I actually interned, I think, in 1985 for Dan Pearson. So Dan Pearson was my guy back then. So I came out of University of Illinois in 87, and they gave me a key to the TV station in Peoria, and I've kept the key ever since. So I'm still going to work every day. So 37 years, 38 years, been a lot of fun.
You love super hyper local. Talk to me about that, because that's what I love to do too. We love our colleges. You love the Illini. I'm an Iowa fan. We got our niches when it comes to that stuff, but there's something about covering these young people doing amazing things that just gets that adrenaline flowing and keeps us going, doesn't it?
Yeah, I love the high school sports. I love the I've always said we are the most local thing. You know, even the nothing against the news departments, but they cover a lot of city council. They cover a lot of police and crime. And, you know, we cover a lot of positive stuff. So we cover a lot of great high school stories that kind of unite a community. And, you know, I've covered a lot of great high school athletes who, you know, are now their kids are playing, or heck, probably their grandkids are playing. But I just love that community spirit that I really think the high school sports, I know we have AAU and we have transfers and stuff, but I think like when I go to a high school basketball game, it's kind of pretty similar to when I was in high school. You know, the pom-pom girls are around the court, they're warming up, the band is playing. It's pretty similar to 40 years ago, which I kind of like.
Yeah, and you mentioned nothing against news departments, though, but I'm out of the business now, so I can say, yes, there is, because we're actually – it's amazing when you're in a meeting and they say we need to get more local content, and you're over in the corner going like, that's all I'm doing over here is like local. So it's a beautiful thing.
I love when they say, how long does it take to get to Brimfield? And I'll be like, well, we go there 5 times a week. You know, you know, you guys maybe have never been there, but the local sports department's been there a lot.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I've always admired the heck out of you, and you've been really good to me. So I appreciate it. And I'm really, really excited that you're here on my first week on this new venture that I'm doing, chatting with us. Let's talk about your Illini. You mentioned you're an Illini grad. You've covered a lot of good basketball teams. Last night, well, let's just focus on last night. Without their best player, they beat a team in Penn State who's not an upper echelon team in the Big Ten, but solid basketball team, and they pounded them by 41 points, Jim. This team is playing really good basketball.
Yeah, they are an offensive machine when they're clicking. And right now they're clicking, you mentioned without Kasparis, but, you know, they got Kasparis who's been pretty consistent. They got Kylan Boswell who's been pretty consistent. They got Trey White who's been pretty consistent. You know, 3 guys who are pretty darn good. And then the depth, and you see Humrickhouse, you see Morez Johnson yesterday. I mean, when you see them on the court, their length is kind of staggering. I mean, they are really big and skilled. And I know that's something Underwood really stressed. And, I still wonder about their youth and their consistency. Great teams are consistent every night, but as far as potential, they have as much potential as any Illinois team in a long, long time.
You mentioned Mortez Johnson last night with 20 points. He's supposed to be 18, 19 years old. He looks like a grown man. And you're seeing it with him. How excited is that, or how exciting is that? Because the normal parts, but I think the depth is going to continue to make this team better and better as they get through the season.
Well, and he's what we grew up with. He's a kid who committed to Illinois when he was a sophomore, never wavered, a high school kid in Illinois Mr. Basketball who wanted to play for Illinois. He's one of those great stories we don't see very often anymore. And, you're right. He's like 6'9", 260, 270. He's chiseled. He looks like a grown man already, and he loves rebounding. I think you coach some youth sports. I've coached youth sports. I always say to my kids who played youth sports for me, if you rebound, every coach in America will play you. Junior high, high school, college, if you rebound, everybody will play you. And Morez has a little bit of that Rodman where he's like, I want to get that ball. And that rebounding aspect and the putback, they didn't run a lot of offense for him yesterday. Yeah. He hung around the rim. He got rebounds, he got putbacks, he got alley-oops, and he wound up with 20 and 11. And that's, that's another element. Kaspers can get to the rim, and Murkhouse can shoot the three, and Trey White can do a little bit of both. And you get a garbage man like that who embraces the role. Embracing the role is so important, and they do have some depth, and then he is certainly adding a piece.
Yeah, you play defense, you rebound, you'll be able to play basketball for a long, long time. I haven't gotten to see KJ in person. You have. Lottery pick, and I heard about that, and I heard this kid's really good. This kid could be a lottery pick, and sometimes you roll your eyes because you never know if the hype matches what's coming. Jim, he's living up to the hype. He's really, really good.
He's a freshman. He's not like a 22-year-old who moved in here from Europe. Most 18-year-olds, the game's too fast for them. They play too fast. He is so poised and so under control and sees the floor so well. And he does some things that are almost breathtaking, where you're like, you compare him a little bit to Luka. I know it's the European cliche, but he does some things, Jokic, they look like they're playing in slow motion. How did he get that layup? How did he, the game against Washington's tied with a minute to go, and he goes and shoots a layup. You don't see that very often in the half-court offense, but he sees the floor and sees the pieces of the floor. He's a savant in that sense. He really understands the game at a level that is amazing, and he is a hard worker, man. He when they lost to Tennessee, man, he staggered off the court. He was so upset. Yeah. And since that Tennessee game, he's had 20-point games. He's controlled games. He's a worker, man. And, what a find he's been for Illinois. Again, sometimes I watch Illinois and I'm like, gosh, just think about how good they could be next year. Well, it won't be a next year. A lot of these guys will be gone. So you got to love it. And it's, they always say it's speed dating, recruiting. Well, it's kind of a speed romance. You got to love this Illinois team now because they're not going to be here next year.
That's a great point. Talk to me about what Brad Underwood's doing with this program, because I feel like he's a chameleon, or he evolves better than most coaches in college basketball, because it was heavy transfer. Now there's some Europeans, some freshmen, still some transfers. He's embraced college basketball the way it is now. Jess Settles was on the show yesterday, and that's one thing he kind of talked about, is that he's done a good job of evolving with college basketball. You got to give that guy credit, because he continues to bring the best team possible each and every year. You mentioned the future. Some coaches used to build towards that future.
Yes.
You can't do that anymore. It's what's happening now, isn't it?
Yeah, and Underwood talks a lot about his junior college days, that at a junior college school, you're at most you get a player for 2 years, so you have to recruit quick and change your roster. And he likes the jigsaw puzzle. He likes putting the pieces together. He likes seeing how it all is going to work. And, I think his son Tyler gets a little credit. His son Tyler has really tried to say, let's be more NBA-like. Let's be more one-on-one-like. Let's spread the floor. Let's shoot threes. Let's play more like an Oklahoma City Thunder type team. And I think players embrace that. And I think it probably is a little bit easier to teach. I mentioned to you before we went on air that I watched Drake yesterday, and it was fun to see Drake play pick and roll and go backdoor. And Illinois doesn't do much of that. Illinois does a lot of one-on-one, a lot of breakdown, a lot of our five guys are going to beat your five guys one-on-one. And so, but yeah, I give Underwood a ton of credit. Again, if you don't adapt, you lose. And he has adapted. He has embraced the changes. obviously Illinois, and we're starting to see it in football, but Illinois has done a nice job of building an NIL nest and has been able to get some pretty high level players who, we don't know all the financial obligations, but they're obviously getting some money. They're obviously getting some donors who are helping out.
And Jim, I say nowadays, the most money some of these kids are ever going to make is between the ages of 18 and 22. And you have to take advantage of it. I know there's the old school, and it's weird. There's weird parts of it that I don't love, but you can't fault these kids for making as much money as they can in a prime part of their life.
I honestly think very soon there's going to be no freshmen, sophomore, junior, and seniors. I think Brock Harding can sign a 10-year contract to stay at Iowa. I really do. I think they're going to say, somebody's going to take him to court and say, look, I'm making $300,000 and as an Iowa senior, you're telling me since I graduated I can't stay? Screw that. I'll sue you, and I'm going to stay. And I think you're going to see the abolishment of freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. And I think there's some good in that, and there's some bad, but I think it's changed. But, we got a kid in Bradley in Peoria, Duke Dean. Duke's not going to play in the NBA, but he could be the face of Bradley for 5 to 10 years, and that'd be fun for him. It'd be fun for Peoria fans. I really think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see kids stay in college for 10 years, and if they have to go take a class, they'll go take a class. Maybe they'll take bowling, but they'll take a class. But they're going to get, like I said, they're making too much money. That it seems weird that, hey, your college days are over, your money's gone. That's not the way it's supposed to work.
Well, you look at Coleman Hawkins, who wanted to go to the NBA, and he looked and he rolled the dice at maybe playing in the NBA or going to the G League, and I guarantee you he's making more money now than he would in the G League. So it's financially, it just simply makes sense. How good can this Illinois team be? With Jess yesterday, they're definitely a second weekend team. They're a Sweet 16 team. I think that's the floor, isn't it? And then the ceiling can be something pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of Kentucky teams with NBA lottery picks that at the end of the year, they never put it all together, and you're like, boy, they had so much potential. I do worry about Illinois being a team like that where it just – at the end of the year, you're like, geez, wait till next year and there won't be a next year. I mean, some teams with great potential don't get there. But this team, you don't win by 32 at Oregon. You don't win Big Ten games by 40. I think that's the first time since 2004. You just don't see that. So when they're on their A game, Matt, they're going to be awfully hard to beat. But they'll probably be defined by how they are when they're on their C game. The other day they blew a 17-point lead to Washington. The Darren teams didn't do that. They stepped on your throat and they put you away. If this team can get that killer instinct and put away games like that, sky's the limit. Because when they're playing their A game, when they're playing the game they played against Oregon or Penn State, nobody wants to play them.
You mentioned football, so I want to talk to you about football because obviously Brett Bielema is a Quad Cities guy, came from Prophetstown, and I was talking the other day that Brett gives this program an identity that I don't know if they've had in a while. And the stuff during the bowl game, and he's just got a confidence about himself, a personality about himself that Illinois football hadn't had. And it needed, and I know someone who loves the program like you got to love what Big Bert's doing down in Champaign.
Yeah, he's brought legitimacy to the program. He is remarkably detailed. There's some things he does on Twitter I wish he wouldn't do. There's some stuff that I'm not too crazy about. But he brings a legitimacy to the program that you're absolutely right. A kind of a professionalism. I think the NFL kind of helped him in that regard. I think he is remarkably detailed. I think they're I look at Matthew Bailey from the Quad Cities was the Illinois' final recruit, and he's been a player for him. Matt Krasetich from Spring Valley Hall, Illinois' final recruit in the class. Those two kids are kids he hit on because they kept doing their homework and they kept working, and they said, let's go get that kid. And I think the kids he gets in the transfer portal, the kids he gets from high school recruiting might not have the 4 and 5 stars, but he knows how they fit in. And we saw a little bit of Badger ball at the end of the year, the barge, the running, the power attack. I've always felt like for Illinois to be good, there's a bunch of linemen running around Illinois. Find some linemen, find some running backs, and let's play power football. And he's got that program going real well. And the thing about Brett I always admire is that his first day when he got the job, it wasn't very sexy, but he said most games are lost, not won. Let's get out of our own way and let other teams lose. South Carolina lost to Illinois. Nebraska lost to Illinois. If Illinois just does things right, you can win a lot of football games. And again, it's not sexy, but it's pretty admirable. And boy, they got a lot of players coming back. And again, Luke Altmaier coming back, and obviously the running backs and the linemen, and now Gabe Akis. And It's a good time to be alive. My freshman year at Illinois, 1983-84, Illinois beat every team in football and basketball in the Big Ten. It's never happened since. It won't happen now in an 18-team Big Ten. But they went to the Rose Bowl. They went to the Elite Eight. I don't think Illinois sports has been as good since. But this year, Elite Eight basketball, 10-win football, and the optimism for the year ahead is pretty high.
You mentioned the future, because I think that's the cool part. Brett wasn't like wanting to throw a parade. I mean, it wasn't like he was happy with what happened, but immediately he was pushing forward. And I joke up here in the Quad Cities, Illinois won 9 games, and some Illini fans were super excited. He wasn't. Iowa won 8 games, and the fan base wants to get rid of the head coach. And that's because that's the expectation that Iowa football has gotten to. Yes. And I think that's what Brett knows. Brett wants that expectation in Iowa City to be what happens in Champaign. Is that a good analogy? Does that make sense?
No, I've always said I am not a drunk Illinois fan who thinks Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, let's slay the Giants. But I've always looked to Iowa City and said, why can't Illinois be Iowa? Why can't Illinois be Madison? Why can't we be Wisconsin? And I think Bielema says, let's be that, but then let's try to take it to the next step. Let's try to find that special quarterback that can take you to the next step, that can take you from the 9-10 wins. And now with the 12-team playoff, the invitations to the party have extended to the point where, Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin should be thinking that way. That you don't have to beat Ohio State, Michigan. It should be an expected goal. Absolutely,
it's a realistic goal. That's one thing I noticed when the 12 teams came out. I was like, you know what? This is something that Iowa, if they don't mess up some games this year, they win 10, 11 games. Illinois wins one more, and
Minnesota
they're
beat
probably
Minnesota.
there. Yeah. So it's something they can definitely be done. There's an Iowa-Illinois women's basketball game tonight. And talk to me a little about what your experience has been like with Shauna Green, because Clinton native, I've met her several times, an amazing human being. That program's heading in the right direction as well. Some bumps along the way, but definitely heading in the right direction.
Yeah, she's recruiting at a remarkably high level, and she's had some injury problems this year, and maybe they're not going to get over the hump this year, but she is exactly what the program needed. In fact, you can rave about Brad Underwood, you can rave about Brett Bielema, but she might be the best hire by Josh Whitman. And I personally, I'm the father of 3 daughters, and I know how good girls basketball is in this state. I've never understood why Illinois can't be good in women's basketball. And Shauna Green, I think, saw that right away and said, hey, there's no reason Illinois can't. Everything's in place. And she has done a phenomenal job. And, you got a girl playing for Iowa, Leah Guyton from Peoria, who those are the kind of kids Illinois has got to keep here. Right now, Iowa with their sellout crowds and national TV, and obviously the Caitlin Clark effect, and just 30 years of success, they're far ahead of Illinois in that respect. But you can catch up in a hurry. You start winning some games, you start building some excitement, and Shauna Green has done a great job of being a cheerleader for the program, a recruiter for the program, and now she's got the Big Ten's pretty big mountain to climb in women's basketball, but she's working very hard at it.
Did you experience the Caitlin Clark effect? Did you cover when she went down there ever, or
I saw her?
It was wild, Jim. It was like the Beatles. It was crazy last year.
Yeah, I didn't see her last year. I'm at home now. My wife's got some Caitlin Clark stuff around here. She got some Caitlin Clark stuff for Christmas. My kids love Caitlin Clark, so certainly I've never seen anything like it, where a person has ignited a country the way she did. So it's been pretty remarkably special. I always tell the story that I was at the Illinois-Iowa men's basketball game a couple of years ago, and I was on the baseline, and I looked over, and Caitlin Clark was standing right next to me. And I thought she kind of looked like a girl on the quad, like a chemistry student, or, and I'm like, this girl right here has ignited the whole nation. It was amazing to me. And, I gave her a double look, and I asked her, I said, my daughters play sports, and they just, I'm just so amazed by what you've done for women's sports. So, I see the WNBA ratings. I see my daughter plays volleyball at Monmouth College, and I see the pro volleyball league starting to form. I see the women's soccer that they just got the big franchise fee in Denver, and Caitlin Clark's had a major part in all of that.
And I would be remiss to not ask you about Monmouth volleyball before we let you go. How was the freshman season?
Roll Scott, she had a great freshman season. Now the coach left, so that's a little heartbreaking for her. But I'm sure Monmouth will get another coach in there. She's got a lot of great athletes. Anawan, Kaylee Sealis is one of her. He's a roommate and a great player. And She's got a teammate from Rockridge, so she's got a lot of Quad Cities there. But she loves Monmouth Roll Scots, and we're proud Monmouth fans.
I don't know if I texted you when it happened, but I called the game for MediaCom, MC22, and it was Augustana Monmouth.
Augustana,
yeah. Yeah, so I was giving you as much love as possible on air. So, Jim, I appreciate you. You've always been great to me. You've always been the standard.
Can I get one in real quick here, Matt?
Yeah.
So last night, between like 9:30 and 9:45, Randazzo starts texting me. And I'm like, dude, this guy is retired. This guy is out of the TV grind. I was going 100 miles an hour. I just got back from the Bradley game. I was monitoring the Illinois game. I was editing like 8 tapes. And you're texting, things are going well. What time can you join me tomorrow? And I'm like, Randazzo's in his pajamas at 9:30 at night. I'm going 100 miles an hour running into walls trying to get TV. And I almost retired. I almost said, I should do it. I should do what Randazzo's doing. I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of your journey.
Hey, don't pin that on me. Don't let me run you out of the business. All of Peoria would be up here with pitchforks, ready to kill me. No, you know what they always say? There's life on the other side. There is, and then there's some things I miss. But being able to do this, it's the same thing, just in a different platform, different venue. Different time, Jim. That's the big thing. Yeah. I was watching a freshman basketball game at Sterling last night at 5:30. Something I could have never done a few months ago. So always appreciate you. You're an outstanding friend, and I'm gonna make you do this a couple times. You're not off the hook. We're gonna do this often.
It's easy enough to do. I enjoy your stuff. I wish you the best of luck. Happy New Year. I know it's a big year for you and the Randazzo family. So you've always done it 100% first class. I'm sure you'll do this great, and always a pleasure, buddy.
He's the best. Jim Mattson joining us on Off the Air. We got a lot more to get to. Greg Armstrong's back with us. We got more to get to right after this.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from on the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Off the air with Matt Randazzo. That was cool. Did you see? Whoa. Did you see how it kind of did that thing?
I don't know. I didn't even.
I don't know how he did that.
You're learning things as we go.
Ooh, we're still online. We're still doing well. Greg Armstrong, happy enough and nice enough, I should say, to join me, drive all the way out, bring me food. Hang out for the morning.
Delicious.
I feel like we're in college. So let's play some euchre after this.
Yes.
We'll hit the calf.
Okay.
And then we'll figure something else to do after.
Well, I was going to say, once we get to about 4 o'clock, we're good. Yeah.
And then we'll hydrate ourselves.
Okay.
You're as well connected to high school sports in Illinois as anybody I know. And so there's so much good about it. But there's always these hot button issues. And one of them right now is it helps when the microphone's over here. I didn't just figure that out on my own. It helps. It's a lot of hot button issues.
Yep.
I think the biggest one right now is when you look at the state championships, and you can give me the details.
Yeah.
7 of the 8 were won by private schools.
Yes.
And that's not that's not, but I think the thing that I think is the bad thing is what most of them were blowouts. All of them were blowouts?
Especially on, safe to say, most were blowouts.
Okay, so, and that led to everybody saying, we got to fix the system. How do we fix it? How do we fix it?
Yeah.
Now, full disclosure, I'm an Alleman grad. Everybody knows that. So I do like the private schools. I'm not an anti-private school guy. And
I went to a private school.
You are as well. Ottawa Marquette. Is that place still open?
It is still open.
It's thriving.
It is still open. It is the smallest 11-man They're a small school playing 11-man football.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So how does Greg Armstrong fix it? Does it need to be fixed? What do we do?
I think the first thing is like let's pump the brakes on like there needs to be 2 separate classes. Let's get that off the board to start.
Awful.
And there are people who listen to this and may completely disagree with that, and that's fine. I do not think that's the answer, and we've talked about it before on our podcast. I don't think if it goes that direction, I hope it never does. If it goes that direction, I'll never say a state champion. I'll never say the phrase state champion because I don't think you would be.
Yeah.
I think you'd be the champion of the public schools or you'd be the champion of the private schools.
Yeah.
You're not a state champion because you didn't beat everybody,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the answer because there are too many private schools like Marquette and Marquette's the extreme example. I just said they're the smallest school playing 11-man football, but there's too many, or there's schools that would be left kind of out, on a fringe because how do you fit those small classes into one system?
Yeah.
Well, that's not right. Mount Carmel's going to play like Newman or Mount Carmel's going to play Marquette. Like that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So then it's like, do you divide it into 2 classes? But even if you do, it's still such a huge range of those schools. So anyway, forget that.
Yes.
I think the bigger issue was the IHSA has gone throughout the years, kind of gone back and forth and made adjustments and tweaks to the multiplier. And then they added like the waiver system. So if a team wasn't good enough for X amount of years, then they would apply for and they could be granted the waiver so they'd play at their own enrollment level.
Okay.
So that's kind of how Belleville-Althoff fell into Class 1A. Belleville-Althoff as a school their enrollment is dropping anyway. But because of the waiver system, they had not had enough football success in the past. I don't know how many years it is exactly. They qualified for the waiver. They got it. They ended up playing Class A. But when you start looking at the demographic.
Where were they at? What class were they before they moved back down?
Next year, I believe they'll be in 3A.
Okay,
They had
so
been in 2A and 3A in years past.
Okay.
Yeah.
They would probably have won 2A and 3A?
Yeah. I think they'd have played every bit as competitive as.
Right, a 1-5. No, yeah.
I would have loved to have seen them honestly play any of the teams in Class 1A through 4A that day.
Okay.
Just because they were that good.
Yeah,
they were that big. They were that fast. Deerhill Jr. is probably going to go down as one of the best players I've ever seen in person.
That's the kid going to Oregon, the running back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was the way he moved laterally so quick and so just deceptive. And then the speed burst after that was just
so they
wow,
weren't having success to get the waiver. They hadn't had the success in recent years.
It goes in 2-year intervals.
Yeah.
But they had not had a lot of success. Okay. This I could go back and look at their year-over-year history. But yeah, they'd not found a lot of success. They have now found success, and you start looking at, and I don't want to pinpoint just this one school, but you look at their geography, their demographic of where they're laid out compared to Lena Winslow, the team they played in the state championship. It's night and day. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable that Belleville is a community of 40,000, but then you start looking at they're only 30 minutes-ish away from St. Louis. Then you also have like Collinsville, and there's a couple other cities in that area that are pretty moderate to big-sized cities right around them.
Yeah.
So it's like who they can draw from,
the
pool they can draw from is so much more than Lena Winslow or from these 1A public schools that are in a rural area.
Yeah.
It's just it's crazy to me that
it's Lena and Winslow.
Yeah,
no relation to Carl Winslow.
No.
Never done that bad joke before, but
it was pretty bad.
Yeah, awful. I didn't go Eddie Winslow, Laura Winslow. All right. Anyway,
so I think that what needs to change is. And they've already gone. One thing that they tweaked already is they're going to go year by year,
and that has to.
Yes, I don't understand
what's
why.
The big school in Chicago that like their
DePaul
enrollment
has like exploded.
So they went from being like a 3A to like an 8A.
Yes,
but they're still playing in 3A.
Yes, because of the 2-year enrollment cycle, which is ridiculous. So they're gonna that's been changed, or that will be changed going into next year, which is a big step. But they need to make the waiver much harder to get. Is the problem. So I believe
not just one down year.
Yeah, not a few, but yeah. I think in my view, I would say you could get rid of the waiver system.
So that waiver gets cancels the multiplier.
Mm-hmm, correct.
And the multiplier is still a thing.
The multiplier is still a thing, and then there's also a success factor which will move you up another class potentially. So if you have enough success, I believe it's 2
And
state
that's for
championships in a
anybody,
row.
or is that just the private schools or the multiplier?
It's private schools.
Okay, so
non-boundary schools.
So let's take a team like Rochester, who was always there, and you cannot tell me they weren't getting kids from Springfield and all over the place. It's just free ride, free game.
Yeah, potentially.
I
don't know.
That I think, and I get it. I totally get it. I see the results. I get what people are saying, but I think the frustrating thing is like it's not just non-boundary schools or private schools. Like I get that you have to change. There's the rules in place, but like if you want to go play high school football someplace, you can go play there. You can figure out a way to get it done, and they do. And if you're a public school, it's not a big deal. Like transferring it happens. Heck, the Iowa side, we won't even get started on that, but it's just a free game. Here it happens, and like Rochester and I'm probably misspeaking, but I could have swore when they were rolling, they had open enrollment down there too.
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that as a public school, I think you had to, play within your district.
Gotcha.
But who knows? There are certainly public schools in the state that probably have some kids on their roster that they got creative to get them there. And
what is it? Do you know in Illinois, if you go from, let's say, Rocky to Moline, do you have to sit out?
I don't know the transfer rules exactly, but I believe there are.
But not a year. I think it's if you go from a public to a private, you got to sit out an entire year, calendar year.
Or like one sports season, or I don't remember how it is now. Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
We should have researched this more before we get into it. But with that being said, so I do agree with the, figuring out the quickness of changing things. The 2-year thing was crazy.
Yep.
I also like, and I did a sports line on WRMJ with the Taylors. God bless those guys. Good people.
Yep.
And Jim, an Alleman grad, did bring up the fact that like, some of these schools almost lost in the semi. They were closer games than just the state championship games.
Yeah.
I don't know which ones, and he had them, and they made sense. But he's like, in 3A, this was a blowout, but that team almost lost in the semifinals, whatever. So, and we know that too. Like talking to coaches as we get ready for the postseason, like they don't want to go south, they want to go north, or it helps. Like it helps which side you get into, which brings up the whole conversation of do you just seed this thing and make it one big thing?
I think you should be seeding 1 through 32. I think it's more fun. There's more kind of adventure to go play teams you are unfamiliar with. Whereas in the 1 through 16 North and South, you don't see the exact same teams every year, but man, it's pretty close. You're going to end up seeing familiar names more often than not. And it's like, I think it's more fun in, putting the whole state against each other,
Because I can remember back in the day, like there'd be times when, and it's been a minute since, and this isn't any offense there, but we don't have a ton of teams going to state anymore. And back a while ago, like we would have, there was the one year where Stockton played, then Mercer County played, then Alleman played. Geneseo's been there recently. Newman's been there recently. But you're talking pre-pandemic. I don't think since the pandemic anybody's been down there from our viewing area.
Yep, exactly.
The View from the West viewing area
we have had teams.
A little bit more.
Yes, we have had
so,
teams.
With that being said, like I can remember when there'd be local teams and they'd be playing in the state semifinals, and you knew the winner of that game was going to win a state championship, or you knew the winner. So like. I know we're focused really on those state championship games, and it does the narrative of the private public because of what they are. But like, there's other years that you knew the matchup wise just because of the seedings. I think that would help alleviate the look on a Saturday when it's 7 out of 8.
I think yes. I think if you went
a little bit, I'm not saying it's going to be a quick fix, but I think that would be part of the solution.
If you went 1 through 32 and you had the multiplier in place, yes, I think that it levels the playing field out for everybody across the board. It's there's no system I don't think is going to be perfect. Somebody's always going to have a gripe or a small complaint, but I think in general, those kind of small tweaks, I think would go a long way in kind of creating just more competitive football the later you get in the season. That should be the goal of it, right? Like, the state championships should be a celebration of the season, and it should be competitive football. It should be great games.
It goes back to college football we just talked about. We want to see the best national championship game.
Absolutely.
And if you just pick 2 teams and do it, so like this is the same thing. I don't want to see the state championship game being played at somebody else's stadium on the Saturday before the weekend, Thanksgiving weekend. I want to see it actually on the thing. So I think that's the main focus. moving forward. Boy, we can talk a lot about this throughout, and I know you'll continue to do shows throughout the off season on these type of topics and all those kind of things. Promote the show one more time that you have, View from the West podcast.
Yeah, so View from the West, you can find it on pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. We come out with an episode during the regular season. We'll come out with a regular episode on Tuesday morning, and then again, our Instant Reacts podcast will be on Friday night. Maybe live Friday nights.
We're going to be doing a lot of different things. And that's what I'm excited about too, because we're going to work a lot together. People have always asked me like, hey, so what's this show going to look like when I go to do it? And I don't know, but I know there's the high school stuff is super important to me still. Yeah. And so like, we'll continue to hit on those kind of things too. And I think working and doing relationships with yourself and other high school focused entities will help me out a ton and help each other out. So come Fridays during football season, you're going to see Greg Armstrong, and you're going to see a segment of the show, a big segment of the show, be on the high school football leading up to that night. I'm probably going to have to do one for the Iowa side as well. So that's why I got to figure out something with Bobby and all those kind of things. So so thank you for coming in. Yeah. Thank you for the trees. And most importantly, thank you for watching me flip out when I was pretty good.
You were good. Yeah, you were good.
I wasn't as...
Is it better that it was me and not like someone who is very less...
I don't want to deal with anger. No, not even that. No, it's nothing less. It's the fact that like I just anger would have just said things to tick me off.
Well, not even... But like,
if he was already texting me with things to poke. You're literally off the air. Like, just shut up.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All the times he gets hit in the head and he still gets a good one every now and then. So I want to thank Greg for coming in. We're through 4 or 5 of these for this week. Coming up tomorrow, Andrew Lehman. God, I hope everything goes good for Andrew. Andrew Lehman will be in the house tomorrow, tournament director for the John Deere Classic. We'll talk about the John Deere Classic, what it's grown to, concerts on the course, all those kind of things. I doubt I'm going to get an announcement when it comes to the concerts this year. But that'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool, right?
Yeah, that would be cool.
So Andrew Lehman will be in the house tomorrow. Also, Casey Kreider, doing great things, still in the NFL. 9 years in the NFL as a long snapper. He was with the Giants this past year.
Former DeWitt Saber, like
DeWitt
my wife.
Saber. He said he hasn't been home in a while. So we'll have more with Casey Kreider. His story is awesome. So he's on tomorrow, and we're efforting maybe chasing down Gary Thrapp maybe, or somebody like that to talk about the girls shootout coming up this weekend. So one more big show to get to. I want to thank Brock Harding for joining us. I want to thank Jim Mattson for joining us as well. Thank Greg as well. Thank you first and foremost for watching. If you haven't subscribed, we're getting close to 500. Please do so. We're going to blow right past 500, work our way to 600. So thanks so much for watching. We will see you guys tomorrow.